Today is May the 18th, 2015. This is the Ghetto Free Press, and I'm George Boston Rhines. Out of Americus, Georgia, Dr. Marshall's publication, The Observer, is perhaps an example of why black African Americans can no longer rely on white dominated journalists, owners, and newspapers and television stations to report the news in the black African American communities. As you know, the South Georgia area, the Quitman Free Press, and Valdosta Daily Times, along with other South Georgia and North Florida newspapers, seems to get it wrong or not get it at all. You know, we had the Madison 9 that was brought up on charges of alleged voter fraud and mishandling of absentee ballots, as well as the Quitman 10+2. Well, my question to the people of Georgia and around the nation: did you see an article or publication of this magnitude as Dr. Marshall out of Americus, Georgia, wherein he highlighted the most honorable, outstanding citizens in Brooks County, Georgia, who was brought up on a total of 119 alleged voter fraud charges? Their case lasted 4 years, and after 4 years, only one of them was brought to court. Miss Lula Smart had 3 trials. The first one was a mistrial, the second was a mistrial, the third one, they dropped all 30 to 40 charges originally filed against her. They dropped all charges by the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, who orchestrated this fiasco, the Secretary of State's office, and others, including the District Attorney David Miller, Assistant Attorney Brad Shealy, as was brought out in the courtroom in Brooks County. The case of Lula Smart consisted of 19 days of trial in the third trial, and not a single, let me repeat, not a single newspaper was in the house. Not a single television station, although this was a very high-profile case. Not even Eric Holder of the Justice Department gave any attention as far as Representative Tyrone Brooks and other civil rights leaders are concerned. So I just want to highlight this to you and let you know that we are grateful to Dr. Marshall and the American Observer, who reported what others would not. And that is a beautiful picture with high honors, because after all charges, all 119 charges brought up on these outstanding citizens by the state of Georgia was dropped. One of these individuals, Natasha Head, had lupus and she died. She's no longer with us. And so the question must be asked: did the state of Georgia add pressure on that young black outstanding citizens that may have contributed to her death? After all, you know what happens to lupus patients and stress. Well, I'm going to say it over and over again. The Democratic Party of the state of Georgia, nor nationally, they did not support, they did not come and give credence to these outstanding citizens. Many of them are college degrees. 2 of them have the PhDs, as if though they are criminals, outright criminals. That's the way they posted them in the newspapers and television stations around the United States of America. So I guess Pastor Avery said it best. G.B.R. agents lied on the stand. Secretary of State's office lied on the stand. The registrar who took ballots home, nothing happened to her. And have set a dangerous precedent that all registrars, let me repeat, that a dangerous precedent that all registrars in the state of Georgia can now take ballots home or to their recreational resort areas or overseas and process them and discard the ones maybe they don't want processed. And the Secretary of State, Brian P. Kemp, the governor of the state of Georgia, Nathan Deal, Eric Holder, the Department of Justice, apparently saw nothing wrong with that, because as far as we know, nothing was done to correct that mishandling of absentee ballots. So now we want to see if that case will come to court, or if the postal clerk, John Boone, that lied on the stand, G.B.R. agent Braswell, according to Lula Smart, the attorney, and the jury findings did not believe her. And so we can only say to ourselves as black African American and white right people, why should our sons and daughters go fight in foreign wars for this nation if they cannot fight for what is right when it comes down to ensuring voting rights for the black African Americans, especially those who have put their life on the line in time of war in the United States Armed Forces. Quitman 10+2, we started out proud of you, and we remain extremely proud of you. And do you not know that that young lady right there, the one they vilified, yeah, she just got her PhD. Yeah. But nobody cares. There are those among us who are trying to turn the hand of the clock back to the Jim Crow laws. But I thank God for Galatians 6:7. For ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free, in St. John. But Galatians 6:7 fixes it up and says, for God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man sow, that shall he also reap. Dr. Marshall, keep spreading your truth, my beautiful black brother. We are hoping that just maybe some white people will join you. I'm hoping that more black African Americans will support you. And I intend to continue doing what you're doing, and that's getting the truth out. So none of our people, including white people, will remain deaf, dumb, and blind to the times, unable to make intelligent decisions based on facts, because there are those who do not want you free. And Jesus said, and ye shall know the truth, and that the truth shall set and make you free. So regardless of how much you go to church, mosque, synagogue, or study the Vulgate, or the Holy Quran, or the Torah, you can never be set free until truth comes. And when truth comes into the minds of those that seek truth, then all falsehood must vanish, for falsehood is forever a vanishing thing. As a community, state, nation, and world, we are not who we claim to be, but who we prove ourselves to be over a given period of time. This is the voice of the American people and all people around the world of goodwill. Peace be unto you. And remember, regardless how much you go to church and duplicate, imitate, and placate the religious leaders of yesterday, you cannot tell God, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, or anyone else that you are standing up for right when you refuse to stand up against the wrong. For you who cannot hear that well, I'll repeat it. You cannot tell God that you stand up for right when you refuse to stand up against the wrong because you're scared as hell. Therefore, you fear man and what man may do to you when you should be fearing God, the one who can control the forces of nature and destroy certain nations of the world. This is the Ghetto Free Press. Again, Dr. Marshall, thank you for doing what you're doing in Americas, and thank you for educating me because I need it. Bye-bye. We go. The Wilkinson County Post, May the 7th. A picture of Mayor Whipple-Lue on the front page. As Mayor testified before a grand jury along with others, and I was there when this incident occurred. You can go to my video and you can see a little bit of it. This is concerning Keith Grenade. Said he was struck by a elderly lady on a walker. Well, I said it once and I'll say it again. There are attempts to remove this mayor, Mayor Whipple-Lue, by any means necessary. While the state of Georgia, GMA, the Governor Nathan Deal, the Department of Justice, civil rights organizations, even local churches in Gordon refuse to stand up for what is right in God's world and what has been proven over and over again. That there is an apparent conspiracy to remove newly elected black mayors in the state of Georgia. When you read the Wilkinson County Post, you know it's bias. You know it's bias. Lester Maddox nor Governor Wallace have received as many publications and posts in any newspaper as Mayor Whipple-Lue on the percentage-wise. She does not have an attorney to represent her. And perhaps the late finance chair, Terry Reese, said it best. I do not trust Attorney Boone, who is the city attorney that was put back in office by the Honorable Judge Robert S. Reese. Robert S. Reeves. Yes. And some people are even asking now about the friendship of this man. And why would you point your finger at your client at a public meeting in the state of Georgia? Is this what the Georgia Bar approve? Is this what the Georgia Bar approve for a attorney to publicly point his finger and say many other derogatory things against a sitting mayor? Regardless of what the mayor may do, they all should be professionals. But my question is, if you don't know, and if you haven't seen who this mayor associate with during and following the meetings, just look at the videos and you will see his friends, you will see his supporters, and you will see those who are against an elected mayor that was elected by the majority of voters in Gordon. And ask yourself, how many times, how much effort have you seen this attorney right here speak and try to have a forensic audit done to account for the money and how the money has been spent over the last 30 to 40 years in that city. According to what has been said, there has never been a forensic audit. And so, like many other cities in Georgia, people money are not being accounted for, and they do not want transparency. They do not want a check and balance, and they do not want a paper trail, even on who gets contracts, as we saw in Quitman, Georgia, just a few weeks ago. Well, somebody got to report the truth, because it seemed like our newspapers, our television station and radios only give us the best news that money can buy, support, advertise, and control. Pick up your cameras, as many of you have already done. Pick up your iPhone, smartphone, and do what you can no longer depend on the free press to do. Once again, how many people are now in jails and prisons because we don't have a newspaper to tell the story about black people here in the United States of America? How many black journalists do you know in top echelons of the newspapers in Georgia? How many journalists do you know? And when you get them behind closed doors, ask the question: can they print their story, or will they print what others told them to print? I know, because they talk to me. They tell me behind closed doors who the good people are and who the hush-me-uppers are. The truth must be told, or this nation will be destroyed from within. It's just that simple. The Ghetto Free Press saying to all civil rights leaders, where are you, and why aren't you in Gordon, Georgia? Why aren't you in Quitman, Georgia? Why aren't you in Meigs, Georgia? Why aren't you in Davisboro, Georgia? Dawson, Georgia, Lumpkin, Georgia, and many other cities and towns here in Georgia where black mayors are being removed from office? You talk about voting rights. You civil rights leaders are not showing us that you care about voting rights. For if you care about voting rights, but not care about keeping a person in office after people voted right and got the right person in office, and you sit there and say and do nothing. Isn't that something? People lie. Lie. Talking about they care about voting rights. If you vote for someone and then they mistreat them and remove them out of office, arrest their family, intimidate people that they won't even come back out to vote again, and you watch the United States Justice Department sit down after we provide them with facts and living testimony of people who are fed up and so intimidated they say they will never go back to the polls again to vote, and the Justice Department of the United States sit back and say nothing? Say nothing. Say nothing. Say nothing. Somebody got to speak up who love this nation. When you sit down and refuse to speak out, you are an enemy to this nation. I repeat, black or white, Jew, Gentile, Protestant, Catholic, German, Japanese, Latino, does not matter. If you don't stand up and tell America the truth about herself, you will contribute to the destruction of our beloved nation. Once again, the Ghetto Free Press. We report what others ignore. I served this nation for 21 years, and I love this nation. I love it, and I trusted in this nation. But many blacks have given up hope now. Many blacks do not believe the white man in this country will ever treat them with justice, and that the judicial system is just what it says, is just against us. But in the end, if America does not change her ways, she will end up down the path of ancient Rome. you can believe it or let it alone. The Ghetto Free Press. Speaking truth to power, because we love you just that much.
Welcome to the Advice Show, media with the common sense approach. So there's a man that I saw on Facebook, and he stated that he was a former racist, and he had made a video stating why some, not all, white people have a great fear of black people. Look at real quick.
Well, it's me. I'm back again, here to talk about fear, pride, arrogance, narcissism, all that good stuff. So what is it that stops so many white people from wanting to change their hearts in regards to race and wanting to see the reality and come out of denial? What is it that keeps us stuck right there in that comfortable position of untruth? Well, I think part of it is fear. Another part of it is greed. Greed in that we don't want to lose dominance, we don't want to lose power, we don't want to lose privileges, we don't want to lose benefits that the system of white supremacy has created here in America for white people. We don't want to lose none of it. We're scared. We're scared of black retribution. We're scared of black vengeance. We're scared shitless, and we always have been. Since day one, we put our hands on black people. Grabbed them, snatched them up, put them on a boat, and made them our own fucking personal slaves and assistants for no pay. We did all that. You goddamn right, we're scared. We're scared of losing what we got. We're scared of losing our positions. And we're scared of retribution. So we got a lot of fucking fear, man. Yeah, we do. You hear me, white brothers and sisters? A lot of fucking fear. We're scared. We always have been. You see a black man walk down the street, you lock your doors, check, make sure he ain't gonna hurt you, you clutch your purse. We're scared. So what we do? Lock them up, throw them in jail. World's largest prison population of black folks right now. It's right here in this fucking country. Wonder why? We're fucking scared. Even the fucking police officers, the coward police officers that kill unarmed black people are scared. We're scared of that retribution, scared of that black vengeance. And then we project, then we pretend and project that black people are as racist as white people. Who the fuck ever taught a black person black supremacy? The first thing a fucking black person learns is why it's wrong to be a supremacist. They deal with that shit their whole fucking life. Why the fuck would they want them to act supreme? I ain't never heard a black person go around acting superior because of the color of their skin. If anything, they do the opposite. It's white people that are taught. I ain't saying black people can't hate. I ain't saying black people can't be angry. But hell, if they do hate, it's a hate that hate produced. It's a anger that anger produced from white supremacy, a culture, and a system of white supremacy. So yeah, black people are angry. Some of them, not all of them, some of them. The point is, face your fear, face your greed, so that we can fucking have a more peaceful country, a more peaceful world. Until white people face that greed that they have. Oh, I gotta be on top. I gotta keep my white privilege. Oh God, I'm scared that the black people gonna kill me. They gonna come get me. They gonna snatch me up the way we did them. They gonna do all that dirty shit to me that white people have done to them. Stop being so fucking scared, man. Man up, woman up. Let's face reality. White supremacy is real. Our country is a country of white fucking supremacy. Yes, sir, it is. It always has been. Let's face it. Let's do something about it. Let's take some fucking responsibility. Act up, speak up, vote. Do what you gotta do. Be active. Protest. Get in the fucking streets. White people have to change their fucking culture of white supremacy. If we don't, it will destroy us all, and it already is. All of us. Has to do with morality. This thing about getting out of denial. One, you got to acknowledge the truth. We are a white supremacist nation, and we always have been. We have white supremacist institutions, culture, structures, power, psychology, everything, politics. Whitewashing is in everything. The media, education, history is whitewashed and biased. Education is whitewashed and biased. Entertainment is whitewashed and biased. I ain't saying black people are bad. We're all equal. We know this. Stop being defensive. Stop being judgmental. Stop being defensive. Stop being delusional. Get out of denial and face reality. Our culture is racist. Our white culture is racist. I ain't saying all white people are racist. I'm not saying that. But it's all that indifference. It's all that inaction. It's all that turning a blind fucking eye. That's the real fucking problem. Step up. Get out of indifference. Do something. Say something. Let's take our white America back. I love America and I love white America. Let's take it fucking back. Let's be proud of ourselves. I'm not proud of white America anymore. I used to be a fucking racist. Not proud of America anymore. Face your fear and face your greed. Once and for all. Take your fucking country back to what it should be, which means it's made for all people. Not just white people. Bye.
Now this man here, he's telling you that he used to be a person that was a racist. He used to have hatred in his heart. Now he don't anymore. And he's seen what's going on in this country and what's holding us back. He addressed the fear, the great fear of black people, especially the black man. You know, that fear is taught in the household. That fear is something that even as black people, we don't understand. We know about the fear. Trust me, we know it 100%. And when he talks about the police officers fearful and just shooting, it's just the same thing like a scared dog will bite you faster. That's usually what that is. Why is it that we're so feared? It don't matter if you are a criminal or you're not a criminal. You're still feared. Why? Because it's taught. And what are you afraid of? This man stating you're afraid of black people doing the exact same things that was done to us, which most black people don't even think like that. So I don't know where that come from, but this is the thing. I guess it would be like me doing something to somebody else, and then they haven't done me nothing. I would kind of be concerned about that just a little bit, like, oh man, I know I done these people wrong, or I know that karma gonna come back on me one day. Okay, and when the man said about the system that's set up, it is a system set up. We talked about that last night on the radio show. That system isn't the same playing field for everybody. You know, like some people say, well, you know, like on the job market, for instance, you got to be more educated, more qualified, speak better English, all this stuff that you got to have be 10 times better than a person who is a white person who don't even have none of that. And we've seen this many times. I've seen it many times in jobs. It's just a different playing field. Or you can't get away with the same thing of talking to the police a certain way versus maybe a white person. And I've seen some white people cuss cops out. But if you do it as a black person, you can get your head beat in or get yourself shot. I mean, it's just all kind of differences in society is what this man is talking about. And getting mad about it, what this man is saying, is not refuting a word to what he said. Because we all know, black and white, what he said is true. Now, I had a young man write me an email, and maybe he watched this video. I got your email, and you were stating, what could you do to, you know, stop racism? Just be fair, that's all. And if someone is being racist, call them out on it. Say, hey, man, that's not cool. I don't agree with that sort of thing. You can keep that old ignorance somewhere else. That's the best way to do it. And if everybody do that just within their own community and their own way, then you can put a stop to a lot of this stuff. And don't teach your kids that crap. Because people are people at the end of the day. But this man had just revealed what America is about and what it has always have been in the area of the system on how to control things. Now you have these silly racists who will say, well, you don't like the way America is, why don't y'all go back to Africa? You ain't going nowhere. My ancestors literally worked and built this country from blood, sweat, and tears. My ancestors have fought every major war this country has ever had. Every last one of them. People in my family has fought in wars with this country. So why in the hell would black people just say, you know what, okay, we're going to get on a plane and go back to a country we didn't even build? We didn't build that one. We built this one. This is what our ancestors went through. So that option is out of the way. See, the thing is, you get upset when we talk about these things because you want to keep the system that this man was talking about in place. Well, one benefit and the other doesn't benefit too much. Or think about it. You have to put laws in place for black people to get a job. You have to put laws in place for black people to buy a certain property and go certain places. I mean, why laws had to be put in place when you should naturally just treat your fellow man or woman, no matter what race they are, the same? You know, until you get past the racism stuff, this country would never get to a certain point. And some people say, well, you always have racism. Yeah, you can always have it, but it don't mean it has to be the dominant thing in your society just because you will always have it. Yes, I know people will be evil until the end of time. I get that. But it doesn't mean that we have to partake in it and, you know, deal with the issue over and over and over and over and over again. I mean, personally, I'm tired of racism. I'm pretty sure you're tired of racism. But it keeps coming up. And we have to deal with it once and for all to bring a healing. And name calling doesn't bring healing. Talking crazy to people, trying to think people undermine their intelligence and all this other stuff doesn't bring healing. All you're doing is causing a problem. And, you know, I'm getting very low tolerance of people doing that. If you can't really have a positive discussion, even if you don't agree, just a civil discussion, and not with all that, you know, slide talking and all this other stuff. I don't care if you're black or white. You know, I'm going to start blocking people for it because I'm sick of some of you comments in the comment section of these videos with stuff like this. You know, people can have a dialogue without name calling and saying all this stuff to each other. Act like adults. But, you know, this man, like I said, he let out a lot of, you know, gems. I'm pretty sure he's going to suffer a lot of persecution online because he gets sent up and exposed and stuff that's been going on. Make sure you download the Advise Your Media app on iTunes and the Amazon Play Store for Android. Hit me up in the comments, use the commentaries, subscribe.
He's fine. I sure will. He asked about you the other day.
Tell him I'm trying to stay afloat, trying to get everybody paid. By the time I think this noise will settle down, you know, I got to worry about it because it's...
Mayor,
Well, I'm talking about...
can I interrupt y'all? I've got to run, but I want y'all, I ain't got to get you, bro, but you can stay right there. I just want you to know I was riding down and we left the bank, right? The group of people called me a nigger. There were about 6 of them. They called me a nigger.
What?
And so I recorded. I got it on film. I want you to look at them. We're going to find out who those people are.
I know who they are.
It was a group of them.
Well, they told me I ought to be ashamed of myself.
It was a group of them.
I saw them.
You saw them?
I waved at
But when
them.
I passed by, that's what they called me.
Really?
They called me a nigger. And guess what I did right in the middle of the street?
What's that?
I stopped and got my camera. I said, what did you say? I said, where's the nigger?
And they said it.
How can you do me wrong when I'm doing you right? Baby, when I'm doing you right. Yeah.
Doesn't matter, we're still gonna do what we must do. All right. All I'm saying today, Quitman 10 plus 2 plus however many more, I'm with you always, even unto the end. God bless you. God keep you. All right. Over this state, he's probably got 1,000,000 miles on that car. Ed DuBose is one of the most loyal, committed freedom fighters I've met in my life. When we started the movement in Monroe on the Morris Ford Bridge, he said, Tyrone, I'm going to be with you. He's been there every single year since 2005. the marches on the bridge, the reenactments, whatever with the Troy Davis case in Savannah, he and I and Benjamin Todd Jealous rode together. We strategized on the Troy Davis case. Ed DuBose is there. We love DuBose. But we want you to know, brother, we're going to be with you no matter what you're doing because you've always been with us. Please welcome the state president of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, Brother Ed DuBose from Columbus, Georgia. Are y'all fired up? Are y'all fired up? I don't hear you. Are you fired up? Are you fired up? That's some law enforcement officers upstairs. They need to hear you. Are you fired up? Are you fired up? Are you fired up? No justice! No justice! There's some law enforcement officers upstairs that need to hear you. No justice! No justice! No justice! Let me first of all, before I get started, thank our good friend George Brown. I'm going to tell you why. I want you to remember Boston G.B.R. Anytime we don't get mainstream media, go to Boston G.B.R. and you will get the full story. Anytime we get mainstream media, they'll hear a little bit of what you're saying, soundbite it. Go to Boston G.B.R. you'll get the whole story. Let's give it up for this brother out here covering the story.
And now let's give it up. And now let's give it up for the founding fathers of our great republic who set forth these fair laws, even though they may not have been intended for the black man, woman, and their children. But above all, let's give it up for the Quitman 10+2 and all the other freedom fighters who took their religion from 4 walls of a church building, 4 walls of a mosque, beyond the 4 walls of the masjid in Islam, beyond the 4 walls of a synagogue in Judaism, before the 4 walls of those who are atheists, and took their heartfelt love into the streets. And many of them bled, suffered, and died to make this nation the envy of the world. And if today's preachers, rabbis, pastors, evangelists, ushers, Congressional Black Caucus, NAACP, SCLC, Urban League, Gabio, I see you, but you don't see me, organizations. If you sit by and watch the Voting Rights Act torn apart in the state of Georgia under leadership of Republican Governor Nathan Deal and Secretary of State Brian P. Kemp and his investigator Glenn Archie, then what can we say about the dream of Dr. King? What can we say about the work of the great founding fathers of this great republic when we sit back and will not embrace the Quitman 10+2? And we won't say nothing when the news media will report about the crime in the street and they'll report that what they want on their beat. But when news is about the future of our children, the education of our children, and justice under the Southern judiciary in the state of Georgia, and we don't say nothing. We play the ostrich head duck game. We bury our head beneath the sand like the legend concerning the ostrich bird and proclaim that we love Jesus. We proclaim that we love Moses. We proclaim that we love Muhammad. We proclaim that we love Allah. We promise our congregations that we want to give them proper instructions how to get them from earth to heaven, but we can't get them in the courtroom for 12 outstanding citizens, 11 because 1 have deceased. And yet we say and do nothing but placate and duplicate and imitate the leaders of yesterday while we remain silent. Silent. And so I want to thank the Honorable Tyrone Brooks for standing strong. Yes, for standing strong. Standing strong for the cause of justice. And above all, I want to thank God for this man, Tyrone Brooks, as well as Mostella, as well as the Honorable Edward DuBose, former president of the NAACP.
He's probably got 1,000,000 miles on that car. Ed DuBose is one of the most...
Let him close out once again, as he mentioned the Ghetto Free Press, because we didn't start doing this yesterday. Oh, we may not be getting the praise from the civil rights organizations. We may not be seen on the world stage. I'm barely even in the picture. But that's okay. It's not about being in the picture. It's about being in the mix. So when the cake is laid before God and man and our children, you can rest assured that in the archival record of God, the work that we do for the betterment of man and the betterment of this nation will be seen.
In one of your articles, you wrote about the councilwoman cost the city $340, which is not true. But you never retracted. A good journalist is going to retract it. In fact, they saved the city $340. The meeting was supposed to be on a Wednesday. So by them not going on a Tuesday, the city would save $340.
Here's the Ghetto Free Press. I'm on the scene here. They have a main water break here. I understand that some citizens or customers have been without water for approximately 30 minutes just to receive the call. So we are here on the scene right there, busy at it. Right there, busy at it. And once again, just happened that I'll be here and the mayor is coming up. Working down there in the water.
I'm good. What happened?
Do me wrong when I'm doing you right, baby, when I'm doing you right. Yeah, I bought you a car, house, and a diamond ring, and you're acting like I haven't done a thing. I wanna know how can you do me wrong when I'm doing you right? Tell me, baby, I wanna know how. Oh, I wanna know how. Can you do me wrong? Oh, baby, when I'm doing you right. Oh, yeah, when I'm doing you right.
the Wilkerson County Post. And here we often see pictures of our mayor or the mayor of Gordon, and we see that, well, it looks like she's angry. Once again, apparently this is the image that someone may want to be implanted into citizens' head and minds, as these images are planted into our minds to keep us informed about what is going on and to educate us. Okay? But here, there's another symbol that's being sent, possibly to show that Mayor Whipple-Lue, who we all know is a church person, her family is some of the most upright citizens in the community, I've been told as I walk the streets. Yet this is the image that we see in so many Wilkerson County posts. Once again, this is the honorable judge that proceeded or that's heard the case of Mayor Whipple-Lue. And of course, this is the Superior Court Judge Robert S. Reeves. As I sat in the courtroom, I saw many facial expressions and positions he sat that could have been used here on the front page of the Wilkerson County Post that would have not been in the best taste and could have presented him in a negative light. But I'm happy that they found a good picture to post of him in the paper. Moving right along. Here, headlines reads, Mayor's sisters issued disorderly conduct warning after trying to intimidate newspaper editor. And once again, this particular article have been seen, and citizens around the nation have commented on it on my YouTube channel, Boston G.B.R. And they agree with me that why is the mayor's picture on the picture of another one dealing with her sister? And if the Ghetto Free Press didn't have a better picture to show of an individual, what I would have done, I would have tried to clip from a video a better picture. Again, as I said earlier, newspapers present images to inform, to educate, persuade, or whatever it may be. That's the purpose, and this is what have been shown concerning the other newspapers. Now, here is a young lady that many of us are familiar with. This is a mother, and they are showing, in the headlines reads, in the Wilkerson County Post, Gordon Mayor Pro Tem cancel Monday's council meetings. And of course, you'll see a picture of a girl, a young lady, a mother, and she's presented as being angry, militant, and etc. And of course, another picture of the mayor's sister. Beneath this particular picture here, it reads, a Lue supporter trusts her fists at cameras after the July 7th council meeting with Lue's sister and former total care home provider Pamela Reeves looks on. Now, to this mother's children, to the people that know this lady right here, you know that this is not her. You know that she's not a militant. You know she's not angry. You know, because I have shown it on my video, if I wanted to choose this picture out of her many movement that night, let me repeat, out of her many movements, I could have had a picture just like that. I could create one. But because of the newspaper wanting to educate, want to inform and persuade, the positive side, but mainly to be fair and balanced, not only to the mayor, but to everybody else. You who have average intelligence, let me repeat, you who have average intelligence, do you not remember how they painted Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? Have you not read and listened to his speeches, how they called him a militant and many other dirty names, an outside agitator, starting trouble, rebel riser, all of these things. And so we understand why they do certain things. But I encourage you, to follow the teachings of Jesus. Love ye one another. And when you find someone in fault, pray for them. Continue to love them. Because we know that there is a hand behind the man with the hidden hand. And so let us be a true reflection of the best of our republic wherever we go. Too many of our sons have suffered, bled, and died in the wars of this great nation, from the Revolutionary War to all other wars. In fact, the first American to die in the Revolutionary War was a black man by the name of Crispus Attuck. Crispus Attuck. So many Americans was fighting for this nation before they had a right to fight. They fought for this nation before they had a right to vote or the right to be respected as a human being. Now, I didn't create this. I'm not the author of what you are hearing. This have become a historic archival record in the United States of America and around the world. And so let us, as black African Americans, Japanese Americans, white people, let us continue to support what is right in God's world, and let's let those on the wrong side of history continue as they were found to be, let me repeat, as they was found to be, even by their own children, in the days gone by, to be on the wrong side of history.
Most of all, Mr. George Buster Rhymes stood up here and expressed how he walked the street in Gordon in 2015 and was called the nigger word by 2 women. You didn't think that was newsworthy? Nowhere in your paper did you print about him being called the N-word by 2 women on the street in Gordon. And I really think you're biased. And I'm asking all of you who disagree with the things she writes in her paper, don't buy it. Hit her in her pocket. Because a good journalist is going to write the facts. And a lot of times your facts is not true.
Don't hit me again, Miss Linda. Don't hit me again. You nasty self.
Greetings. I'm George Boston Ryan from the Ghetto Free Press, and I'm in the city of Gordon, Georgia. I attended the second monthly city council meeting last night, October the 20th, 2014. And during the meeting, the editor of the Wilkinson County Post asked Mayor Mary Ann Whipple-Lue, is she letting a member of the press address the council or something to that effect? She asked another question, was I a resident of Gordon, Georgia? And Mayor Mary Ann Whipple-Lue said, you have to ask him that. And every question, according to the volume of sacred law, deserves an answer. But before I finish with this, when I stepped outside, there was another white Caucasian middle-aged lady asked me, was I from Gordon, Georgia? And I responded to her, let me get my camera. I would like to give you a response on camera. And as I went to get my camera, she decided not to go any further with the issue. And because of who I am and what I stand for and what I have stood for since 1975, I want to address some of the concerns that others may have. I have already answered this question to a reporter, television reporter for TV station 41. But I will do it again, and I will keep doing it as long as necessary. Now, I have been to many city council meetings in the state of Georgia and other states. I have stood up and made comments wherever our form of government had a law that a citizen of the United States of America could address their public officials. If we could not address our public officials in the same manner as anyone else in the audience, I would not do that, because I have never been disruptive in any public meeting except in Valdosta, Georgia, at which time I was arrested along with 14 other black and white people that went to jail and spent 24 hours plus in jail, and the federal courts proved that we were right in exercising our right to free speech at a public meeting in the state of Georgia. To the editor of the Wilkinson County Post and the other young white Caucasian sister that I have the greatest respect for, and I love you so much that I'm going to give you the truth. First of all, I want anybody of average intelligence to look at the Wilkinson County Post as it relates to the first elected black mayor in the history of Gordon, Georgia, after all these years. Moreover, she is also the first black female ever elected to serve the needs of the people here in Gordon in the history of this city. Mayor Ann Whipple-Lue is an outstanding person. I was called here as I was called in many other cities and towns across the state of Georgia, and one in Florida. Mayor Ann Whipple-Lue has taken more than Lester Maddox when it comes to seeing her name and her picture and her reputation denigrated before the eyes of the public by a single newspaper that seemed to be so one-sided that even Ray Charles can see it, not from his blindness, but from his grave. And so the article even here, Judy Bailey, since you want to come after me and play games with me, which I choose not to do that, but I will assure you and anyone else, I will answer any question that is thrust upon me. In fact, I value your questions. I honor you for asking the questions. But now let me get to the beef of your question. By the way, this article here only presents one side of what took place at this court hearing. Any person of average intelligence can read it and come to their own conclusion. And this is nothing new. There is no child that would enjoy to see all this negativity and downright foolishness against one person. When have you seen Judy Bailey come out and ask for this forensic audit that the mayor that was elected by the people have requested after 3 weeks of taking office, just like the mayor in Meigs, Georgia, have caught hell on the backside of heaven because she wanted to account for the taxpayers' money. Now, to the governor of the state of Georgia, not only should we be looking at from what we have found here, every city possibly in the state of Georgia should have a forensic audit to look into the deep taxpayers' dollars to see how they are being spent, because some people have been in office for so long until they've been doing things that are not found in any book in the state of Georgia. Ask me, how do I know? Get me behind the camera, CNN, MSNBC with Al Sharpton, and challenge me based on truth, and we will answer you. Back to the question as I close. Judy Bailey, editor of the Wilkinson County Post. I want to say to everybody, I chose not to go down this road, but since they want me to, I did not do this. I would not even have done this video. But God using Judy Bailey and others to let the world see just what a democracy looked like here in Middle Georgia. Now, let me answer your question, Ms. Bailey. When I address any public official or any common person on the street, I don't argue with them. I don't create hostilities. I don't snicker and I don't grin, because I was taught better than that by my mother, father, grandfather, and other civil rights leaders, as well as the spirit of the living God of my ancestors. I don't play games, for when I was a child, I acted as a child. I understood as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things, Miss Bailey. I put them away. So if you don't respect me, I'm going to give you the greatest respect, because I am commissioned by the God of my ancestors and the God of my salvation to be respectful to you and others, even when they are not respectful to me. You know that one of the people there, I got it all recorded on video, wherein one individual from the concerned citizens hit my hand when I was holding this camera. It's all recorded. You don't hear me talking about that. I don't even go into that, because I have learned what true love means. True love means that I feel your pain. Even in your ignorance, I feel your pain.
What happened is that we was just notified by this last
December the
week.
11th.
No,
That's when the letter came.
no.
I have it right here.
Okay, you talking about the deficiency.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not talking about the deficiency. That's what you talking about, two different things.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about. And that, you know, when we was here at the previous council meeting, and they said that, and we voted that Georgia would come to the water for us free.
Won't answer our questions.
I've been trying,
Today,
but let me
but
say,
any other time
but
you
any
have.
other time, Ms. Baylor, I don't mind answering anything you got to put out
You
there.
told me
But let me
before
say
that
this,
I ever
now this
voted
needs to
for
be
you
between
would
you
have
and me.
you arrested.
Let's don't add the dirty laundry before the council. Now, if it's anything
Everybody
between
knows
you
that.
and me, I'm not gonna address, all of this now. We're here to address this water issue, so if you've got any beef it with the mayor. And you and I can have
You
dialogue.
won't take my
No,
calls or reach
I
out to
will
them.
do it, I will do it.
Oh, okay, and your
Okay.
opinion is when you want to do it.
No,
When it's
well,
something you want to talk about.
okay, well, let
Okay,
it
we
be
trying
that.
to keep the city of Boone.
Exactly, now come on,
And
if
we
you've
just-
been
and like I
attorney,
said,
you're
we
supposed to
just
know
wanted
that.
Yes,
one
ma'am.
thing.
28 years I have
And-
never
okay.
seen the ridiculous.
And I personally,
Let's just get back to the basic question.
Exactly.
Get back to the basic
Come
question.
on now, Ms. Bailey.
so that's solid.
Don't stare at me. Turn around. You don't need to stare at me.
I'd like to ask a question. We've been told
Mayor,
that a
please ask her not to
citizen
I can't do that because they do it to
reported
me.
this, and this is what tried to be.
It's
I'm not
like-
the mayor.
It's
They
like,
gave us
but you-
names of this citizen that called,
So I deserve
and
respect
you know what I'm
too.
talking about, this
We all
citizen
do.
that called
Thank you.
and everything and complained about it, and this is what, he ought to have to pay for.
But we pay for what?
Pay for the repair,
What I
whatever the wells,
understand.
because
Oh,
all
okay,
these
but we're
years
not-
that's
okay,
been
I
okay until
understand.
this citizen called and
I
upset
understand
them,
what you're
and then
saying,
now.
but
this
what we're
blunt
talking about is two
question.
different things.
The-
We're talking about getting somebody's house.
My understanding.
Y'all, let's keep
List
it,
of
Ms. Bailey.
deficiencies.
Okay, good. But what we need to do is keep this confined to what we're not here to discuss the deficiencies. And you know, with
Well, I think we
that,
discussed it. I think
Okay.
it's discussed inside and out.
okay, but
There's
come
no
on.
meeting, y'all can't vote.
With your, exactly, with the level of intelligence, and I think we're all intelligent. I like to think that I am and you are too.
Taretha, if you remember correctly, you and Barbara missed about 8 or 9 meetings in a row last summer.
Oh, ma'am, we did not. We're not here to discuss
That's what
about
I
that.
say. If you're gonna print something in your paper,
Yes,
I really
ma'am, I am.
appreciate that you would not put untruth in there. Please put the truth in there. I missed 2 meetings. Thank you.
And so did I, 3 at the most.
No, ma'am.
You all.
Solid.
Don't stare at me. Turn around. You don't need to stare at me.
I'd like to ask a question. We've been told
Mayor,
that a
please ask her not to
citizen
I
stare
can't
at
do
me.
that because they do it to me.
this, and
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So my question is, you're under the citizens' talking time, and are you appearing as a citizen of Gordon or as a journalist, or how are you appearing here? If you're appearing as a journalist, why does the mayor stop me from speaking?
Madam, I go to a lot of cities. I'm very familiar with the laws of addressing city council. I have no idea, but I will say this. If the mayor stopped you from doing what I'm doing tonight as a journalist to get to Free Press under the name of George Boston Rhymes. If she stopped you after you put in the request to speak as I put in the request, she is wrong in my opinion. If you put in a request tonight, I think that you have a right to be doing the same thing that I'm doing, and I wish you would have. Now that's just the way I see it. Jesus said, what I say unto one, I say unto all. And so if you can't do it unto all of us, don't do it into any of us. That's right.
Don't put your hands on me. Don't put your hands on me. Do not put your hands on me.
Leave. You leave. Come on.
So we're gonna go to old business.
Madam Mayor, may I add 2 items to the agenda before we start? I have 2 items. The number 1 item is the status of the city attorney, and the second item is his invoices. I make a motion that we add both of these items to the agenda tonight.
Councilman, let me say this before we go any further. The clerk mentioned that to me, and I said with what we had going on tonight, we would table that at another meeting. We will not be able to add, we're not addressing anything.
I'm sorry, I have a motion. You need to ask for a second.
The motion, I did not ask for a motion. I did not recommend. You only stated a motion. And this is according to the meeting. And I have here before me how to conduct the meeting.
Question. We've got $150,000 that have not been accounted for in this budget. We mentioned that to you at the hearing the other night. We've got to clear that matter up. That money was withdrawn from the One Georgia Fund, and it is not in this budget, and it's not part of our budget. We cannot go any further until we clear that item up. You know, before we adopt anything, we need to make sure that money is accounted for. You know, we didn't vote to move it, and it's not in the budget, see? So you tell me what we need to do.
Well, I would say, you know, concerning that 150, if it has been moved within the accounts but has not been expensed, then it wouldn't be in the budget. And so if it's moved from one account to another, that's not an issue of that budget. If it has been spent, then that's something that would need to be taken into consideration with that budget.
It hasn't been spent.
Yeah, but the money had been moved since October 1st when our year started. The money was moved and put in the general fund in the bank. It has not been accounted for in any of our budget. We hadn't voted on it, and so that money is there. It's going to be an accounting nightmare if we don't do something with it, you know.
Okay.
It's a revenue source, but it has not been approved and has not been voted on.
It really is not a revenue source. It's really just a cash transfer between bank accounts. So it really, if it's just a transfer between bank accounts, it does not need to be accounted for in your current budget, because you're just transferring money from one account into another account. So that would not play into your current year's budget. It's just money that's sitting there that can be used, but it was still not, it is not a 2015 revenue source for you.
So what do you do with that money?
Well, it's just a transfer between two cash bank accounts. Yes, I mean, it's all within the same fund, so you're really just transferring from one account to another account.
But it's not it hadn't been voted on.
Well, that's an entirely separate issue as to what happened with the 150,000, whether it was authorized or whatever. But in terms of the budget, that would not come into play when you're just talking about a cash transfer.
Try to explain that better to me. I mean, you've got to have all of your money accounted for and voted on as appropriation by this council. Okay?
But that is money that was already in the account
in the reserve account.
Right. So you're just taking this, no different than if you, any other bank account you have, if you take money out of there, put it into your operating account to pay your bills. It's no different.
But it's not listed. It has to be in a budget before that money can be used or moved.
Well, again, I think that's a totally separate issue from what we're talking about here.
How? Explain to me.
If the cash is already in your Georgia 21 account.
It's there.
It was taken out and put into another general fund account. So you're just moving cash to cash. There's nothing else that's happened.
Right. But you can't move money that hadn't been approved by this council.
Well, that's a different issue than the budget itself. That is still not a revenue source of money that, the money was already there. It's not new money coming in.
But it was in the One Georgia Fund account, and it has not been voted to be moved.
Well, but that's a separate issue from the budget.
So how's it going to be accounted for in budgeting?
It wouldn't be.
Would be or wouldn't be?
Would not be.
If it was spent at some point, at that point it would become a reflection on the budget because that would be an expenditure. Right. But if you're moving it from one account to another, it wouldn't be reflected on.
Yes, until that money is spent, it's really, at that point you're just taking money, using money out of reserves as opposed to having a balanced budget.
But you can't move money unless it's budgeted and approved by the council. It's always been that way, Mr. Matt.
Well, but until that money is spent, and then that would be when you would have to do an amendment to amend your budget for those additional expenses that are going to be used. That $150,000 is going to be used for.
Any further discussion? Council?
Right now, in your budget, that $150,000 is not being used.
So it can't be used. Not in this budget.
Right.
Right.
If it were to be used, you'd have to do an amendment to that budget right there to use that $150,000 that is currently, or was in reserves, now is in your operating account.
Okay, so you answered part of the question, but not all of it, you know, about the legality of the money being moved.
Again, that's a totally separate issue, and that's not in my realm of capacity and knowledge.
I understand, but I'm stating it to you that it was not legally moved by this council, okay?
Any further discussion? No further discussion? I recommend that, I'd like to recommend that we take a pardon? Yeah, to accept the, what are you saying? I couldn't hear you.
We had already approved the adoption of it.
No, I'm talking.
Right, this resolution would be memorializing that.
Right, that's what we're doing.
Right, so we'd have something on paper.
Right. So can I get a motion that we accept the resolution?
I offer motion that we accept the resolution by the budget.
Second. Motion has been made and second. Roll call. Council, Gensley?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. The budget resolution has been confirmed. Thank you, Mr. Cummings.
Very welcome.
And Mr. Matt. Go ahead and Council, he's the finance chair, you need to look at that.
Let me ask you a question, please. As far as the payroll goes, yeah, there are days that I don't want to tell you that I don't have the best day. When I'm not having a good day, I don't even dress up. I stay around the house. The chief did raise those payroll checks I got. I got no problem signing payroll checks. I said, the only thing is, if you bring my head outside, bring me a check off list. Don't just bring me a bunch of checks and say sign these. I want to check the list to see who's getting what. A lot of times people come down and sign a check, and the problem we've been having for years is not accountability. Is that so many of us are asked to sign a check by the clerk, and when you sign the check, everything is blocked but when you're supposed to sign it. Now we don't do that. But the initial check, who did not tell the amount, you just see where you put your name. I won't go into that. The chief did bring those payroll checks I got. I got no problem signing payroll checks. I said, the only thing is, if you bring my head outside, bring me a check off list. Don't just bring me a bunch of checks and say sign these. I want to check the list to see who's getting what. A lot of times people come down and sign a check, and the problem we've been having for years is not accountability. Is that so many of us are asked to sign a check by the clerk, and when you sign the check, everything is blocked but when you're supposed to sign it. Now we don't do that. But the initial check, who did not tell the amount, you just see where you put your name. I won't go into that. Everything is blocked but when you're supposed to sign it. Now we don't do that. Everything is blocked but when you're supposed to sign it. Everything is blocked but when you're supposed to sign it. Everything is blocked but when you're supposed to sign it. Now we don't do that. The chief did bring those payroll checks I got. I got no problem signing payroll checks. I said, the only thing is, if you bring my head outside, bring me a check off list. Don't just bring me a bunch of checks and say sign these. I want to check the list to see who's getting what. A lot of times people come down and sign a check, and the problem we've been having for years is not accountability. Is that so many of us are asked to sign a check by the clerk, and when you sign the check, everything is blocked but when you're supposed to sign it. Now we don't do that. But the initial check, who did not tell the amount, you just see where you put your name. I won't go into that.
Council, he's the finance chair, you need to look at that.
Let me ask you a question, please. As far as the payroll goes, yeah, there are days that I don't want to tell you that I don't have the best day. When I'm not having a good day, I don't even dress up. I stay around the house. The chief did bring those payroll checks I got. I got no problem signing payroll checks. I said, the only thing is, if you bring my head outside, bring me a check off list. Don't just bring me a bunch of checks and say sign these. I want to check the list to see who's getting what. A A lot of times people come down and sign a check, and the problem we've been having for years is not accountability. Is that so many of us are asked to sign a check by the clerk, and when you sign the check, everything is blocked for where you're supposed to sign. And we don't do that. But the initial check, you did not tell the amount. You just see where you put your name. I won't go into that.
Tonight, I've heard y'all talk about who's on the bank accounts. I've got no problem with it being a person on the city council. I do have a problem with someone being able to write checks who also has all the administrative and accounting input as you have here with your short staff of people. But for anybody to be able to do debits and credits to the system and all the funds and move things around like that and still be the one that can cut checks and sign them, that's a red flag in the world of auditing and looking at internal controls. You'd like to have somebody doing the accounting and then someone else writing the check and someone else signing the check. But we don't necessarily have that here. The movement of funds that I heard earlier tonight, movement of funds is not required by a resolution with Georgia 401. None of my clients go through a resolution to do that. The resolution is how you spend the monies ultimately. All governments, cities, counties, water authorities, whatever it might be, most of them in Georgia have a Georgia Fund 1 account. For anybody to be able to do debits and credits to the system and all the funds and move things around like that and still be the one that can cut checks and sign them, that's a red flag in the world of auditing and looking at internal controls. You'd like to have somebody doing the accounting and then someone else writing the check and someone else signing the check.
We have on the agenda A, adopt Georgia Fund 1 resolution. We're open for discussion.
Madam Mayor, may I add a question? I feel, it's my contention that it's really useless to keep that fund there in the Georgia 1. There's only $5,300 in that fund now, so if there's a legal signature on that fund right now, we need to just transfer that, to our general fund and just close that fund out and be through with it,
You see, my problem with this is that state proposal, with all that's going on, when I call that Secretary of State's office, there have been money transferred out of that fund, huge humps of money. And I was instructed by that Secretary of Treasury that the only person authorized to offer the transfer was me. And I let her know straight up, I have not authorized any transfer except one. When Mr. Warner wrote for $10,000 a deal and I wrote that note, that's the only one that I authorized. And she said, if we close this account, we will not have a ledger or a paper trail once this account is closed. There is $5,000 in that account is going to interest very little. But until we get some things resolved and find out what's going on with the money situation, as far as I'm concerned with the audit going on, this is not a good time to close any account.
Got to expand on that a little bit.
What do you mean?
What is the audit plan on that?
You see that I will not sit here and talk about such all this crime. We know the officer has been locked out and coming in here. But I'll pass this on to you. I talked to Bill this evening. Bill instructed me and I quote him. What he said to me today was, I need to get in 2 weeks. I need 2 weeks to come down to City Hall to finish up this audit. Because there are some very suspicious and disturbing transactions that have taken place. Now, without revealing what was going on, that's what he said before, and that's what I'm telling you. And you all got calls now, you can call me yourself. But right now, it's not a good time to be closing any account. Not with my name on it. If I close this account, which I was told I was the only one who can do it, I have a problem with closing something that I had authorized to be open in the first place. My name was on there, but I had no dealing with this account. And there have been money because I looked at the ledger. There has been money transferred. And for me to close it right now is not a good idea because the paper trail is not here. Until the auditor can look at it or somebody look at this and we get to the bottom of what's going on, the account will not be closed if I have to close.
and he hadn't done anything before now?
He's been working up there at 52 and he's been requesting information. What we need to do is allow him to come to City Hall, work with him, and allow him to complete the audit. The problem we're having is everybody supposed to sign where's the money. That's a good point. The audit is very much needed when the attorney for the concerned citizen states to the county that we are on the verge of bankruptcy. Now, if we're on the verge of bankruptcy, we need to know what's going on with the money. Now, he made that statement, and he ended in the courtroom by saying, yes, we're on the verge of bankruptcy because the mayor and certain of her council members have been living frivolously or whatever, or just spending the city money. So if we're on the verge of bankruptcy, we need a report. And that concerned citizen state on the post, where's the money? I want to know too. So let's let the audit do this thing. We have a choice. If we want to disengage Bill, that's fine. But we need to engage somebody to come here to complete this audit. We've got too far in the process to stop right now.
I know we're all signed and volunteered to be on all people committees. And I thought if we just more or less over that community, you know, people know what you're going on.
They can't hear you.
Well, I ain't got a microphone, so I try to talk loud so everybody can hear me. But my interest in this is I didn't realize that one council person could make a decision on any of those things that we got each one of us look at. I didn't know. I thought council had to make have a meeting and talk about and vote on anything like that. I didn't know one person had that authority to close or open an account and that. I might be wrong. I am.
And you're not wrong, I didn't know that either. I didn't know that either, but when I talked to the woman at the office, she told me that. She said, Mr. Reed, be it known that you are the only individual that's on this account that can authorize transferring money and closing this account. And I said, let me tell you something, man, I had authorized nobody to transfer not one dime. And I will admit, the note that I wrote her to pay the auditor so we could get this thing going, that's the only one I said. I asked in the meeting, could we get $10,000 out of Missouri and pay the auditor? And Mr. Warner said to me, you need to write me a note for that. And I did. It was not threatened. It's been in the paper. And so we need to get to the bottom. And I would not issue my name to say close an account. I want to know what's going on with the account. I'm the one standing there saying, they saying I had authorization. I didn't know that either. But once I learned that, then I said, hey, we're going to get a handle on this. Because whatever went on, I want to know myself because I'm involved with it. And I ain't authorized nobody to move any money. And we're not talking about $5,000 or $10,000 either.
Before the end of last year, how many other people were on that signature besides you? I understand that the previous, could I ask Mr. Brown who was on it before?
Sure, well, here it is right here, the original.
Could I see it, please, ma'am?
Right here's all the things.
Y'all give me just one second. The ones that were on it?
Me, the man before they took our car.
Okay. Before the first of the year?
No. She sent my copy of it. I was thrown out on March, sometime in March of 2013. It was changed. Some of the accounts were changed or something.
It was changed, it came directly out of the general fund account instead of being deposited straight to the general fund savings where it originally set up. Instead of having to make an extra transfer each time, we had to put for it to go directly to the general fund checking account to save itself.
But when you say we, who are you? Who are we?
The mayor Turner, you and me signed it.
No, we signed it, but I didn't know what y'all were doing as far as the transfer. Now, I'm not going to say that. I did not know y'all were transferring.
But that, you read it, I mean, you that read it, signed it. That's all I can say.
Yeah, that's exactly what it says, but let me tell you something.
That's all.
My name is there. But I have not authorized nobody to transfer no money.
we don't have to if one of the other ones do it.
Well, we feel it, I feel it, the ones that transferred it, let them close. I didn't authorize nobody to transfer, so I'm not authorizing nobody to close.
That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Good. But the record shows that you, Mayor Turner, and Ms. Brown were all on that, and any money that was moved before the end of the year, back for the last 8 to 10 years, when the council voted to move all that money, then they
we voted as a council as a whole.
We certainly did.
Okay, I got no problem with that. As a whole, the council voted. But as an individual, let me make sure it's the record reflects that I did not, as an individual, authorize one penny to be transferred to any account.
You see the problem here? You didn't see the problem. The mayor has to give permission for all the checks, all the invoices. You don't see the problem?
Well, I tell you, I really believe I see what's going on is that with the situation going on with money, and I'm going to be honest with you, and the statement was made that we were taking the money, she's covering her butt, so to speak. So if she's in doubt, she should inquire as to the funds being distributed. And I can understand that. I don't think it's so much that she's trying to figure out where every nickel dollar is going, but if she's unsure, then she's doing the right step to ask questions. But some questions we make it actually settle without bringing them before council is what I'm trying to say. I totally agree 100% what Ms. Eady said. She can pay the bill. When she asked me what we're going to do about paying the bill, I said to her, Mr. One, you know what you're supposed to do. You know how to pay the bill. You don't need nobody standing in front of the bill. Come in and pay the bill. Now, what are you supposed to do when you get a call from Georgia Power or you get a lemon of $12,000, so to say, light bill? And I explained that one week she said we don't have the money. I said, what do you mean you don't have the money? That's when we said, well, we got to get these bills paid. Once those bills were paid, when the workshop was held, Mr. Reese told a lie. We got plenty of money. Okay. Then we come back and go to court. All of a sudden, I'm going to bring a bankrupt. What's going on here? That's even more reason why we need the audit to be finished. I want to address America. I say one more thing. I want to address this back, and I'm not ashamed to address the gap actually orders while we get getting this. On my personal level, I don't trust it. That's me. I'm speaking for me. Because when I get a lawsuit for this city and my name in there, and Mr. Boone said I talked to him, blah, 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 and he only presented one side, I got a side too. Now, I know what transpired with the conversation we had. I'm speaking on my side. I cannot work with people I don't trust. In 19 years, I have never called to ask any legal advice. Now we get these calls, and these calls get legal advice. Everything we say to get the information to move the city forward, it's thrown against us. It's open meeting violation. You shouldn't have done this. You harassed her. I have not harassed anybody that's not my neighbor. And I don't appreciate reading in a lawsuit, you harass somebody. Why not get my side before you do the lawsuit? You was an attorney that represents the city, not half of it. And I don't appreciate that. That's my standard, that I cannot work with people that I cannot trust.
Thank you. Next item. Item D is to discuss the bank signature card.
Well, we were trying to get it in writing and signed off on where, go back to where it was done at an earlier meeting on the drug seizure fund and the pending drug seizure fund, the Gordon Library Board of Trustees funds. We couldn't change those in the first place. The council didn't. Because those are run by other authorities. So we're trying to get that into the minutes of the record. That's one thing. And the other thing is that Mr. Smallwood and I were supposed to be removed from all the bank signature cards at the Martin Bank. And that hasn't taken place.
In other words, what you're saying is that in looking at this chart and looking at the position that the clerk holds, you are the treasurer. So if you remove yourself Judy still the treasurer, you are the payroll clerk.
Right, I can do all that without having to sign a
So
check.
that means that you're still on the section. The duties of the clerk.
Right. I can do all those duties without signing a check. And you'd already taken me out a lot of them back in February, and I still done the clerk's duties when you recommended to council that I be taken off back then, and I've still done the clerk's duties.
Clerk, I recommend that we this is still open for discussion, and I think that we really do need to get clarity on this and table this, but I'm not clear on closing this out. And you know.
All right, well, what about these? We need to get it in the minutes that these could not be changed in the first place. We changed them, but they couldn't be changed.
All of that, all of the assigned duties that you was on the prior to not come in until we get further clarity on that. I would say that we leave everything, you were on the 3 and all of the rest of them.
What about mine?
I'm off the other ones now. The ones that taken off in February, I'm off. Y'all already changed the signature cards at the bank on those. I'm off.
We have not given them a new resolution on the minutes. And so we will table that until that's clean.
It's already
Taking mine too?
Sorry.
Is that taking my part of it? Well, I still want to be removed.
You are not,
I'll have the ones for February 17th. They've already been changed to the bank. I'm not on the.
you are the councilman, she's the employee.
Well, I know that. I still want to be taken
Okay,
off.
we'll accept you, but we'll accept you. So, we'll, and offer, any further discussion, council members? This is the time for you to state your opinion, starting with Council Reeves.
Man, I was gonna say that in the years that I've been on council, I've never seen a check in the city hall that didn't have the clerk signature. There may be an office, but the clerk signature is on the check. And that's part of the clerk's duty as outlined in the city charter.
Just want to remind y'all voted to take me off on February 17th, and I am on several accounts. And I did not ask to be off those accounts. Just for the minutes.
And also according to the new signature things that I have, you are still on every last one.
Oh, man, we haven't changed for that thing.
So we can agree on that.
We have to go down and redo them again. The council has to approve them first.
So along that line, council.
Before you came in and took over as mayor, you know, as far as I know, every year the city has a budget that we adopt in October. Every bill is already included in that budget. The city clerk and treasurer is responsible for making sure all those bills are paid automatically. That's supposed to be her responsibility. Now, if you put something in place that you want to copy an invoice or whatever, that's your prerogative to do. But she is still responsible for doing all that. She does not have to have your approval to pay a bill. The city clerk, treasurer does not have to have your approval as the mayor, you know, to sign, because it's a budgeted item, you know. If there's something outside of the budget that comes up, then that brings on, you know, different recommendation that the council has to make, because it's a budget amendment at that time. But she's supposed to pay them without anybody having to tell her to do it, or give her an invoice, or sign it, or hold a check and wait, you know, to be approved. So we've gotten out of the, you know, treasurer's job context by changing, you know, what she's been doing. And she's kind of in a position where she doesn't know what to do. And that's what I'm hearing to say. And I know for sure Mr. Tanner Underwood talked with me, because he told me to call him the other day, last Friday. And I did, and I talked with him, and I know for a fact Ms. Brown is not on some of those signature cards now. So, you know, somebody has changed them down at the bank. They have re-signed them, and she is not on. I know the splosh, that's the one we were dealing with Friday, you know.
Those are the ones that were changed on February 17th.
Then, and we'll hear from Council Smallwood. You're taking the reading.
I'm sorry?
For sure. You have anything you need to say?
That now still won't come off on it.
I know you did, but I thought about it.
The one thing I gotta say is she got to pay all the bills. I think she should be on all the accounts so she can write checks for these bills. If she has to pay all the bills, let her be on all the accounts so she won't have to go to anybody about a check. She can write it herself and pay the bills. If she's been paying them over the years, let her continue to pay them. But she don't have to be on all the accounts to do it.
Okay. Council Denson?
Well,
Councilman Denson, I'm sorry.
I feel like he should be on all of them, like one half. So she can pay all of it.
Councilman Whipple? Well, I feel like that she should be on them, on all the bills. And I feel like, too, that if we want to be city councils, we're here for the citizens. We're not here for ourselves. We are here for the citizens of Gore. And we need to be a part of the city council if we're going to stay on city council. I think everybody needs to do what they're supposed to do and put self out the way and do for the community.
And I'd just like to read section 4.13 of the city charter. Section 4.13, city clerk. The city council shall appoint a city clerk who shall not be a council member. The clerk shall serve for a term of 5 years and until a successor is appointed and qualified, provided that the clerk shall not be prohibited from succeeding himself. The city clerk shall be custodian of the official seal, maintain city council records required by this charter, and perform such other duties as may be required by the city council. The city council shall provide for the compensation of the city clerk.
That's been updated.
This is the most recent that I have of the
That's been updated.
charter.
We did away with 5 years in 90 or 91, whatever we adopted the new charter.
Well, council, go ahead and then I'll ask you.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
I totally agree 100% what Ms. Eady said. She can pay the bill. When she asked me what we're going to do about paying the bill, I said to her, Mr. One, you know what you're supposed to do. You know how to pay the bill. You don't need nobody standing so when the bill come in, pay the bill. Now what are you supposed to do when you get a call from Georgia Power or you get a limit of $12,000 so to say light bill? And I explained that one week she said we don't have the money. I said, what do you mean you don't have the money? That's when we said, well, we got to get these bills paid. Once those bills were paid, when the workshop was held, Mr. Reese told us a lie. We got plenty of money. Okay. Then we come back and go to court. All of a sudden, I'm going to bring a bankrupt. What's going on here? That's even more reason why we need the audit to be finished.
Council, I'm sorry, Attorney Boone, I asked you for an update of the city charter. This was not included in my charter.
Yes, ma'am, it was. The one I gave you on January 30th, that big thick notebook, it was all there.
I've not seen that and I've read it. Maybe there's no site you have a copy.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that was one Mr. Ross picked up in the office and signed the receipt for.
This is the one. This is the one the senator gave that I picked up from Atlanta. The most recent, the update.
This was 2003 amendment, Mayor. It says pretty much, I think what you just read, it says city clerk shall be the custodian of official city seal, maintain city council records required by this charter, perform such other duties as may be required by the city council. The city council shall provide for the compensation of city clerk. And it talks about the treasurer, treasurer nominated by the mayor with confirmation appointed by the council. The treasurer serves at the pleasure of the city council. 5-year rule is gone. Treasurer collects tax and license fees and other money belonging to the city. enforce all laws related to collection of delinquent taxes, sale of foreclosed property. City treasurer shall also be responsible for the general duties of the treasurer and fiscal officer. The city council shall provide the compensation of the city treasurer. So pretty much.
What I'd like to do, at that, I'd like to say until we get further clarity on that, recommend that we table this until we get further clarity. Thank you. Next on the item for discussion is insurance. Our first order of business under the old business is going to be to authorize the completion of the forensic audit by Bill Basket, accept the engagement letter and invoices. Can I get a motion?
I offer a motion that we accept these invoices and continue with this audit.
Motion has been made. Can I get a second? Second. All in favor?
Discussion.
Discussion.
There's a third part in that, except engagement letter. That has to be done first. He has never been legally approved by the city attorney, his letter of audit, engagement. You can't go one without going back and do the other one, you know, so everything on there right there needs to be adjusted to accept his letter of engagement first before you can do anything else. So everything that's been done so far has been legal.
My understanding on this now, what we've been debating, I don't know if you took long, long enough for that. Anyway, the thing with Mr. Basket was it not that we discussed that we approved to hire him. The problem we had was we didn't approve to pay him. And my assumption for that is the reason why he had not worked is because we stopped paying him. He didn't get any pay. So what are we saying now? We just want to delete everything he's done and install him, or what are we going to do?
Well, until it's legal for him to actually do any work for the city, this contract was signed by the mayor on 2/16, I think. I can't read it. It faded out pretty bad. But this was never voted on, you know, the letter of engagement. It's never been brought before this council to be voted on.
Well, council, and to add to that, my statement to that was, have y'all ever voted on anyone's engagement letter? Because I was told that when the attorney was retained, there was no engagement letter. There's never been an engagement letter, even with Roger White. So you might want to clarify that.
I'm not going to talk about any of the other ones. The motion now is talking about this one particular audit from Mr. Basket, you know, so you don't get off the subject with anything else, you know. So we need to stick with just this one item right now, you know.
That is the motion has been open, so we have the engagement letter for us. So now it's up to us to go ahead and decide.
Doing this engagement letter over, my question is, Ms. Eady, are we going to let him pick up where he left off? Are we planning on starting over saying that everything he's done to this point is not relevant? So we have to pick up once we accept this and move forward, if that is the case.
I don't have a good answer for that, you know, I don't not just answer off the top of my head without, you know, put a lot more thought in it or get some more legal advice on where we at with that.
I don't have a problem except litigation based on the fact that it's retroactive, that we continue to accept what he's done and pick up and go from there. That's the way I feel.
The other question I have is, engagement letter does not have anything signed off by any attorney. Our city charter said that has to be reviewed by the city attorney. And on February the 16th of this year, Boone, Scott, and Boone were the legal attorneys, and it was never approved by them. So the question I have is how we're going to back up now to that point, you know, and get it legalized when she's already signed it today, you know.
Well, what we
Mr. Eady, can I clarify one more there?
I love somebody to.
After the council voted to appoint Mr. Haskell to do the audit, being mindful of the charter provisions that require the contract to be approved by the city attorney, I contacted him shortly after this council approved him being hired. Unfortunately, Mr. Baskin claims that was some resistance from the city attorney. Now, the only resistance came from Mr. Baskin because he violated the Open Meetings Act when I asked him specifically for his letter of engagement so that I could review it, and if it was okay, approve it. I didn't care one way or the other. All I was trying to do was follow the charter to get a copy of the letter of engagement and approve it. I finally got one after several attempts, not from him, of course, but by then it was on the agenda for several meetings, but never got action on it, and there was never anything else done. So I didn't have any reason not to approve it, except he wouldn't give it to me. Excuse me?
Where did he give it to?
He never did.
Oh, who gave it to him?
It was produced by an open record request. I had to file an open record request to get Mr. Baskin's letter, okay? Matter of fact, the mayor's attorney agreed it was not a legitimate circuit for an open record request. He should have honored it. You know, I'm not here to debate merits of whether it's valid or not. It doesn't matter to me as long as it was in order and this council voted on it. That's y'all's decision, not mine. As long as it's a valid letter of engagement, those things are pretty standard. You know, it's not my job to second guess the council on what they're going to do. So Mr. Baskin was the one who wouldn't talk it up, not me. Be clear about it. There's some other issues with his work, but that's not up to me, that's up to God.
Council, any further discussion? If not, motion has been made, a discussion, and now we're ready to take a vote.
Roll call vote again.
Yes. Okay. All in favor of accepting the engagement letter, let me hear by a word of aye. Roll call, I'm sorry.
Terry Reese, yes.
Terry Eady abstain.
I'm smaller than that. No.
Yes.
Residential abstain.
By the time then I'm going to abstain.
So what's the vote? Reese voted yes, Eady abstained, Smallwood no, Toles yes, Whipple abstained, and Hensley abstained. So it failed.
So if that fails against this, where we stand with this audit? Are we just gonna say this, we just done, we through with it, we just moving on at this point?
I feel that we should go on with the audit, but I abstain because of the dates and the slacker signature that we need from the lawyer. And I think we maybe need to take at our next meeting, go into executive section to maybe talk about this more so we can get a better feel on this and make sure we are doing everything that's legal. And so at the next meeting, I don't disapprove of the audit. I think we need it, but like I said, I think that we should just maybe take it to the next meeting so that we can all get a better feel of it. And that we'll know what we're signing, because we don't want to sign anything and it come back to hit us in the face. We want to sign it and we want to be right when
So we just be willing to take it?
Yes.
We'll just take it to the next. Next, we have on the agenda to move forward the bank account discussion. Discuss bank account. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, ma'am. The reason that I had it on here and it rolled over from the last 3 meetings is once they took you out of office, we were having a hard time getting signatures on the check. And I was hoping that we would have had at least 1 or 2 of the council people show up so we could have had a legal meeting so that we could vote to put other signatures on the card so that we could get the payroll signed, the splosh signed. We're still having trouble as of this minute, getting the check signed. Ms. Toad has refused to sign Mr. Roberts' check that he is owed $40,215.56 right now for his work that he has done on the account for the sewage upgrade. And so my intentions was to try to get myself or Mr. Freddie Densley on the account, but we never had a quorum, so we could not vote on it. That's the total reason that the bank account was listed on there.
I had signed 1 check for $40,000, and then the next week another check came for $40,000. I was not gonna sign the same check twice. Who get paid $80,000 in 2 weeks? I was not gonna sign 2 checks. No, I didn't sign the other one. Yeah, I signed one. No, I was not signing another check. The same identical check going to the same identical place. I had just signed 1 check for $40,000, and I was not signing that same check again. That would have made $80,000. I was not going to do that.
Yes, ma'am. If I could, I'd like to present the information that has been presented by Ms. Georgia Electric, who is the one that did it. His total bid was $132,100. We paid him 1 check for $50,284.44. The next check for the work.
Excuse me, Council. Was all of the council members aware of that?
Yes,
Do
ma'am.
they have a copy?
Yes, ma'am. All of this was put in, all the boxes that came in, and, you know, we bidded on this contract last year, and I think on March the 7th, you signed off on it so he could start work. He and Sidney Piles on the CDBG.
No, I'm asking, are the new elected council members, were they given a copy?
All of this came in just recently, yes, ma'am.
Well, if it just came in recently, then they have not had a chance to review that and look at that and know what it's all about.
It's a
That's what I
standard,
understand.
right, it's a standard contract. When the paperwork comes in, it's already been approved. We approved it when we voted to accept his bid on that job. And as he completes his work by the contract, then we are obligated to pay him as he finishes the work. When he turns it in to our engineer and they sign off on it, the city council has already approved it. We don't have to go back and approve it a second time. The only thing that happens is the person who's in charge of signing that check would sign off on it. Now, I have all three different copies of where he got the first two checks. This is the third check, and it's not the same check. It's a different check that finishes up. Yes, ma'am.
Let me ask them, were you all made aware of that? Are you knowledgeable about that? Councilman Whipple?
No. But I would like to say, Councilman Eady, you say that you have a hard time. I have came in since about getting checks signed, and Mr. Wonder can vouch for this too. I have came in at different times and asked, do I need to sign any checks?
Yes, ma'am.
And it was your choice and Council Densley's choice not to be put on these signature cards in the beginning. If you was Mayor Pro Tem, you were Mayor Pro Tem, you should have been able to sign anything. You know, but that was y'all the one that refused to sign anything.
The mayor herself put the signature cards together. Myself and Mr. Freddie Denson was never asked. Mr. Freddie was already on it, and she took him off. Mr. Freddie was on the signature cards on some of them. I was never on anything.
No, you all refused to be on anything.
Not on the signature cards. I was never given a check.
Y'all refused to sign any check.
Never given a check.
Because I made the statement at one of the meetings that why are we down here if we're not down here for the city? Now right is right. So I made that statement and y'all did refuse to sign checks. And you did say that you would be on the committee of the fire department.
Yes, ma'am, right. Not just the fire department.
Just the fire department.
Right.
And Council Denver said that he didn't want to be on any committee. But that was by choice.
Right, and that was different.
But I know it was different, but that's what I'm saying. It was different once you had to be Mayor Pro Tem. I mean, you had to step in for the mayor. Then it became different.
And so that's why I say perception is everything. The thing is, when you say you don't want to be included on anything except, then we took it to mean you didn't want to be involved in anything except the fire department. And that's what I can attest to what Councilwoman Whipple is saying.
That's fine. I don't have any problem. As long as we can get our checks signed, payroll, and everything now. If you would let Ms. Toll see this, you or her can sign these checks. You or her, or Mr. Smallwood. Y'all's name is on the splash account, and this man is here tonight. He would very much like to, be paid so he can finish this job. Now, he's through with the job 3 weeks ago. And it is not the same check. It's a different check.
We need to let council look at this.
Sir.
Council, he's the finance chair, you need to look at that.
Let me ask you a question, please. As far as the payroll goes, there are days I don't have to tell you that I don't have the best day. When I'm not having a good day, I don't even dress up. I stay around the house. The chief did bring those payroll checks out there. I got no problem signing payroll checks. I said, the only thing is, if you bring my head, I sign it. Bring me a check off list. Don't just bring me a bunch of checks and say sign these. I want to check the list to see who's getting what. A lot of times people come down and sign a check, and the problem we've been having for years is not accountability. is that so many of us are asked to sign a check by the clerk, and when you sign the check, everything is blocked but where you're supposed to sign. Now we don't do that. But the initial check usually did not tell the amount. You just see where you put your name. I won't go into that.
Him off. Mr. Freddie was on the signature cards on some of them. I was never on anything.
No, you all refused to be on anything.
Not on this, not on the signature cards. I was never given a check.
Y'all refused to sign any check.
Never given a check.
Because I made the statement at one of the meetings that why are we down here if we're not down here for the city? Now right is right. So I made that statement, and y'all did refuse to sign checks. And you did say that you would be on the committee of the fire department.
Yes, ma'am, right. Not just the fire department.
Just the fire department.
Right.
And Councilman Denver said that he didn't want to be on any committee. But that was by choice.
Right, and that was different.
But I know it was different, but that's what I'm saying. It was different once you had to be mayor pro tem. I mean, you had to step in for the mayor. Then it became different.
And so that's why I say perception is everything. The thing is, when you say you don't want to be included on anything except, then we took it to mean you didn't want to be involved with anything except the fire department. And that's what I can attest to what Councilwoman Whipple-Lue was saying.
That's fine. I don't have any problem. As long as we can get our checks signed, payroll, and everything out. If you would let Ms. Cole see this, you or her can sign these checks. You or her, or Mr. Smallwood. Y'all's name is on the Splosh account, and this man is here tonight. He would very much like to, be paid so he can finish this job. Now, he's through with the job 3 weeks ago. And it is not the same check, it's a different check.
We need to let council look at this.
Certainly.
Council, he's the finance chair, you need to look at that.
Let me ask you a question, please. As far as the payroll going, there are days when I don't want to tell you that I don't have the best day. When I'm not having a good day, I don't even dress up, I stay around the house. The chief did bring those payroll checks out there. I got no problem signing payroll checks. I said, the only thing is, if you bring them out here and I sign them, bring me a check off list. Don't just bring a bunch of checks and say sign these. I want to check the list to see who's getting what. A lot of times people come down and sign a check, and the problem we've been having for years is not accountability. Is that so many of us are asked to sign a check by the clerk, and when you sign the check, everything is blocked but where you're supposed to sign. Now we don't do that. But the initial check usually did not tell the amount. You just see where you put your name. I won't go into that.
Oh my God.
We have Mr. David Ewing with ADP. Please.
I'd like to keep this kind of short and sweet. I'm just going to hand this to everybody. Is anybody familiar with ADP up here? No. Automated data processing. We handle back office solutions for companies. Payroll, tax filing, insurance services. Y'all need a few more? What I'd rather do, if we can, is schedule an executive meeting. Is that possible?
No, sir.
No, sir, it's not.
You can't do that.
Y'all have a good one. Thanks.
Thank you.
We have Auditor Malden here. Could you come down and elaborate, please, about automatic data processing?
My name is Miller Edwards, and the mayor asked me to come here to see if you all had any questions relative to the outsourcing payroll. I think outsourcing payroll makes sense in a lot of governments. It makes sense in business. Payroll takes a lot of time by people and interrupts a lot of the qualitative element of their work when they have to run payroll often and deal with all the quarterly reports and all those kind of things. It's a task. Now, I know you've got people who have been doing it for years. I'm sure they've gotten good at it. But it is one of those kind of things that when it comes to bang for the buck, most of my clients, and we serve about 300 governments, very much, I'd say at least 90% of them outsource their payroll. And we're talking governments that are small, like the town of Whitesburg or somebody like that, all the way to Gwinnett County. And again, a lot of businesses out there do. I mean, there are businesses out there that might only have 2 people employed, and they still use an outsourced party like an ADP. I'm not here to support ADP. But it is a very cost beneficial product or service. It also helps with controls, and I cannot help but sit here tonight, this evening, and sense, might be the word, a lack of trust, a lack of respect, and concern over controls. And I think when you've got a community that has a small office of people who those people are doing accounting, they're doing human resources, they're doing all kind of other admin duties, they're cutting checks. When you do that, the trick is to try to find a way to have cost beneficial, good internal controls. An ADP type party, an outsourced party, does provide a certain element of controls involved in doing this. I know there's concerns about the direct depositing and giving up bank account information, all that. Lord, we had the same thing at Malden Jenkins 15 years ago when we went to direct deposit our payroll. I'd have to say, I was a little suspicious. I mean, I'm about to give people information I don't even know. Well, things have changed in this world we live in. And I can tell you, as an employee of Malden Jenkins, it is incredibly convenient to not have to go grab my check, stand in line, and make a deposit. Especially if I'm out of town or running around somewhere, it's not that convenient. So from that standpoint, I can see it being a good thing. But of course, there's all kind of ways to skin the cat. A lot of these outsourced parties, they don't have to use direct deposit. They can even do things like process your payroll and issue checks. The check would say City of Gordon with maybe a little logo of like ADP or whoever the outsourced party is would be on there. They'd be the ones actually cutting the checks. By them cutting the checks, we now have another party involved in helping establish controls. And that's just something to think about, is trying to find ways that are cost beneficial enhancements of controls. And a small community, a small government, and you all are that becomes difficult to do sometimes. It's real hard. As an auditor, we can write up management points and findings all the time and talk about how you can do better with internal controls, but sometimes it's not cost beneficial. You can't all of a sudden take a community this size and say, well, we want to have your office have 7 people in it. 7 people so you can have the perfect internal control structure. But what you can do is try to engineer what you do and how you do it to do your best to promote good, sound, safekeeping, and controls. And I do think outsourcing payroll is one step in being able to do that. along with many other things. I mean, tonight I've heard y'all talk about who's on the bank accounts. I've got no problem with it being a person on the city council. I do have a problem with someone being able to write checks who also has all the administrative and accounting input as you have here with your short staff of people. But for anybody to be able to do debits and credits to the system and all the funds and move things around like that and still be the one that can cut checks and sign them, that's a red flag in the world of auditing and looking at internal controls. You'd like to have somebody doing the accounting and then someone else writing the check and someone else signing the check. But we don't necessarily have that either. The movement of funds that I heard earlier tonight, movement of funds is not required by a resolution with Georgia 401. None of my clients go through a resolution to do that. The resolution is how you spend the monies ultimately. All governments, cities, counties, water authorities, whatever it might be, most of them in Georgia have a Georgia Fund 1 account. It's a great place to park money for a short period of time or even a long period of time based on rates and the convenience factor of getting that money. People wire money from Georgia Fund 1 to their operating account all the time. The controls, and remember we had this discussion back in February when you were all talking about the budget. The control is how that money is ultimately spent. And that's where the budget is important, because the budget is your legal level of control of how it's ultimately spent. Moving it from one bank account to another in the name of trying to put it in the right place so the checks can be issued. I've never had anyone have to go to city council to have moving the money from Georgia Fund 1.
We've always done it.
And that may be one of those things, that's what, if we've always done it that way, I respect that. But I'm just telling you, it's not required to do it that way. The best thing to do
If it's not in the budget, let me explain one thing to you, reason I say that. If it's not listed in our budget, when we begin our budget in October, if we do not have any money to be transferred out of the One Georgia Fund as our money to help cover the budget, nobody can change that budget except this council, including any funds that are moved.
Okay. And what I'm trying to tell you is, in the world of generally accepted accounting principles and the idea of budgets, what you all do is not customary with the way other communities do these things. And
Past practice, we've already done it, okay?
I understand. I said I respect what you're talking about, but I'm trying to explain to you that
We didn't ask for that explanation. We asked for you to just talk about this one
Well, I was talking about the name of control.
But you're going past that.
Okay. I have gone past.
Yes.
All right.
I would rather you stick just for this one subject, please.
On this one subject, I think would enhance internal controls. If you did consider going outsourcing, this might look like an operation.
Sir, yes, sir. The only thing about that now is we can't do it in the middle of the year, see? We have a guided budget. It is nothing in our budget. We did not plan for anything such as this. The time to do this is, you know, the upcoming year.
I respect that.
That's fine. And
you could always look at things at any interim point in time and consider doing an amendment.
Certainly.
If it's not appropriate, it's not appropriate.
Sir, yes, sir.
But I do think, getting back to your question, I'm all about internal controls. You know, as an auditor, that's what I live and breathe, is looking at internal controls. And I do think outsourcing payroll in light of the short staffing that we have in a community of this size, which I would expect to be short staffed in that respect. I would think you try to do anything you can to outsource certain things to help enhance your controls.
Sir, I agree with that.
So that's where I'm coming from. Who you use, not my call. I'm just here to share and shed light on the concept.
Sir. There's proper time and place for all of it, you know, plan it at the end of the year as we go into the new year.
I respect that.
Sure.
And to add to what you're saying, it doesn't matter, as you say with ADP, they are world renowned, if I'm not mistaken, and I believe, he shared that with me, that the previous bank, and I may be talking, you know, because I guess he felt the need, but with Mars Bank, they are now, I don't know who they're using, but they outsource theirs.
A lot of places.
The bank here in Gordon, direct
Like I said, it's a win-win in most cases. It helps
Exactly.
promote controls and it is cost-effective and efficient to do.
I know we can say with state government that that's the way we had. Ultimately, they educated us, they trained us, and like years ago, we were a bit apprehensive
Sure.
as to accepting it, but they
As was I.
assured us that if we didn't I mean, they gave us the ultimatum that eventually you're gonna have to, or either you get a car. So with this being said, as an administrative decision, this is something we want, is the control and trust and the integrity, which goes along with
I think it would
this.
be a good thing in that respect. I think most people involved would appreciate what's being attempted to happen.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Is Mr. Mark Hardison available? Next, we'll move on to the Wilkinson County School.
Sorry to answer your request. You have not.
This is not the charter.
Taking up with Attorney Boone.
I'm not taking up with Attorney Boone. Okay, where do you get warrants down here? Because she's the clerk and she's the one that said I'm supposed to take the warrant out on.
At
The county sheriff.
no, you can call the sheriff.
Yes, give it to me. Because I asked one to jail today. Because she give me a false record.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The meeting is now called to order. Today is May 4th, 2015, Monday, 7:30 p.m. Order. Today is May 4th, 2015, Monday, 7:30 p.m.